Okay, so have you guys noticed anything different about Prince Louis lately? I mean, we all know how the royal family tries to keep things super private, right? But Princess Anne, she's kind of known for being a straight shooter, and she might have accidentally let something slip that has everyone doing a double take. Basically, people are wondering if maybe Louis isn't quite thriving under the spotlight. We're so used to seeing those adorable, cheeky kid moments. Remember him pulling faces on the balcony? But lately it's like, where's that kid gone? He seems quieter, more withdrawn. It's got people talking, and not always in a good way. Now, officially, the palace is all, nothing to see here, folks. He's just a normal kid. And William and Kate have always said they want their kids to have as normal a childhood as possible, which is why they limit press access and try to control the narrative. But even with all that, comparisons are inevitable, right? Think about it. Prince George is visibly being prepped for his future role, always composed and air-like. Princess Charlotte? She's basically mini royalty already. Poised, confident, knows how to work a crowd. But Louis, he seems to be retreating. When he does show up, he often looks serious, almost hyper-focused on something specific, rather than engaging with the whole spectacle. Social media has definitely picked up on it. People are asking, why does Louis seem so different? And that's where things get interesting. See, there's this growing theory, and it circles back to something that happened years ago, something Meghan Markle said, or supposedly said, that's being re-examined under a whole new light. But before we get there, let's rewind a bit and talk about Lady Louise Windsor. You might not know her name, but she's the daughter of Prince Edward and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh. And here's the key thing. Lady Louise has been confirmed to be autistic. It's something her parents, especially Sophie, have spoken openly about, emphasizing neurodiversity and the importance of understanding children's unique needs. Now, Louise grew up largely outside the spotlight. Her parents deliberately chose to shield her from excessive media exposure, allowing her to develop at her own pace, on her own terms. Sound familiar? Royal watchers have drawn parallels between Lady Louise's upbringing and Prince Louis's increasingly low-profile presence. It's not to say the situations are identical, but the strategy looks similar. Basically, the thinking is that if a royal child needs additional space, structure, or protection, the palace doesn't announce, they adjust behavior instead, and the public is left to notice the gaps. So, are we potentially seeing a similar situation with Louis? Is his quietness a sign that he might be neurodivergent and that William and Kate are quietly adapting? It's a question nobody in the palace will answer directly, of course, but it's fueling a lot of speculation. And that brings us back to Meghan. Remember that comment she supposedly made about Kate having baby brain? At the time, it was framed as a social misstep, a new royal making a clumsy joke. But now, some people are wondering if maybe Meghan saw something more. I mean, Meghan came into the royal family from a totally different world. Hollywood, media, adaptation. She's expressive, reactive, verbally fluid. Kate, on the other hand, is reserved, controlled, structured. Maybe Meghan, coming in with fresh eyes, picked up on something different about Kate, and baby brain was just the closest socially acceptable explanation she could find. Okay, so now we gotta talk about the other side of this, right, King Charles? Because while everyone was hyper-focused on Kate, something else pretty big was happening. Remember how Buckingham Palace announced that Charles was going in for a corrective procedure for an enlarged prostate? It sounded pretty routine, especially since they framed it as totally benign, but then, like a month later, bam! Another statement. This time, it was way more serious. Turns out, during that prostate treatment, doctors found a separate form of cancer. The palace was super careful to say it wasn't prostate cancer, but beyond that, they clammed up. No specifics on type, stage, prognosis, nothing. He started treatment right away, and they said he'd keep doing state business where possible, but, you know, the reality was unavoidable. The reigning monarch has cancer. It's a heavy thing to say. Now, this is where things get really interesting, because unlike a lot of cancer announcements where you eventually get that in remission update, with Charles, it's been vague. Like, they say he's responding well to treatment and doing limited public duties, but there's no clear end in sight. It's like, okay, is this a long-term management thing? And how does that play into the whole succession picture? I mean, you gotta wonder what Princess Anne thinks about all this, right? She's always been the one most concerned with continuity and keeping the monarchy running smoothly, no matter what. So, you've got King Charles dealing with his own health crisis, and then looming over everything is the question of William's kids. If cancer's now on both sides of the family, could George, Charlotte, or Louis be at risk down the line? It's a scary thought, and you can bet it's being discussed quietly within those royal circles. That's where Anne's practicality probably kicks in. It's not just about sentimentality, it's about institutional endurance. She's seen abdication, divorce, scandals. She knows how quickly things can unravel. A stable system can be strained, and from her perspective, the issue isn't just if the kids are going to have to face this, but what happens if they do? How does that affect the whole succession plan? It puts William in this crazy position, right? He's not just the next king, he's the bridge between an aging monarch and a whole future generation. And if his wife gets seriously ill, if his kids start facing major health challenges, the pressure would be insane. That's probably why he immediately stepped back from some public engagement. It's not a retreat from duty, it's a deliberate attempt to protect his family. It's like he's remembering losing his mom, Princess Diana, in this sudden public tragedy that shaped how he sees the world. Grief is bad enough, but grief amplified by the world's scrutiny, that's a whole other level. And for a dude who's supposed to be unshakable, carrying that kind of weight, the loneliness has got to be profound. He can't really delegate these worries or even share them candidly. So, are we seeing the quiet influence of Lady Louise's neurodiversity reflected in Louise's upbringing? What do you make of Meghan's comment about a baby brain now, years later? And how can William truly balance his duty to the crown with his duty to his family when those obligations clash? Share your thoughts. Okay, so I don't know if you guys caught wind of this, but Princess Anne, she's got this reputation, right? Like, she's the real one, the one who just tells it like it is. No fluff, no nonsense. She's seen it all, and she's not afraid to call a spade a spade. And that's why people are paying extra attention to this one thing she supposedly said. I mean, the royal family, they're masters of saying nothing with a whole lot of words. So when someone like Anne, who doesn't usually mince words, even hints at something, boom, everyone loses their mind. Apparently, she's super concerned about this whole situation with Charles and Kate. Not in a gossipy way, but in a what's the plan, people? Kind of way. Like, she's thinking big picture succession, the actual job of being royal. And you know what? That's kind of refreshing. Because let's be real, the monarchy, it's not just about waving from balconies and wearing fancy hats. It's a business, a brand, an institution that's been around for like centuries, and it needs to keep going no matter what personal stuff is happening with the people in charge. So Anne's probably thinking, okay, we've got Charles dealing with cancer, we've got Kate out of commission, William's trying to juggle everything. What if something happens to him? What if one of those kids gets sick down the line? I know, it sounds morbid, but that's probably exactly what's going through her head. She's seen how quickly things can fall apart. Remember all the drama with Diana, the divorces, the scandals? She knows that public trust is fragile, and you can't just rely on good vibes and pretty smiles to keep things afloat. And that brings us back to Louis. I mean, if there's even a chance that he might need extra support, or that he might not be totally suited for the spotlight, that throws a wrench into everything. It's not about being mean or judgmental, it's about being realistic. Because here's the thing, the monarchy, it's a job, and it's a job that requires you to be on all the time. You're a symbol, a representative, a living, breathing monument. You don't get to call in sick. You don't get to have a bad day. You don't get to just be yourself. And that's a lot to ask of anyone, especially a kid. So maybe William and Kate, they're trying to give Louis a little extra space, a little extra time to figure things out. Maybe they're trying to protect him from the pressure cooker that is royal life. But at the end of the day, the crown is heavy, and it's gotta rest on someone's head. And if William's plate is already overflowing, well, that's a problem that Anne and probably a lot of other people behind palace walls are trying to solve. It's a high-stakes game of chess, and the future of the monarchy might just depend on it.